Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, my name is Ray Hagar. I'm a reporter with the Reno Gazette-Journal, and this is an all-new edition of Nevada Newsmakers. Sam Shadd is on vacation. Jim Denton from Las Vegas is co-hosting with me today. Education is always a hot topic at the legislature, and today we have the two leading members of the Assembly Education Committee. Bonnie Parnell of Carson City is the chair, and Debbie Smith of Sparks is the vice chair. Senator Bob Beers, a Republican from Las Vegas, has come up with some novel ideas to address some of the problems in education. We're going to find out if these are harebrained schemes or good alternatives to solve some problems. And then on the pundit panel today, we have longtime lobbyist Fred Hillerby, the father of Governor Gwynn's chief of staff, Washoe Democrat Martha Gould, and Harry York, the CEO of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. That's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
If you think Wells Fargo is only checking accounts, you're not seeing the whole picture. Online brokerage, mutual funds, mortgages, and home equity accounts. So get more than free checking and start reaching your goals today. Now you get the picture. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
Where do I want to go?
Me? Denver.
Anchorage, Alaska.
Atlanta. Vancouver.
Chicago.
We can help you get where you need to be or want to be. Reno Tahoe International Airport. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Anywhere?
Minneapolis.
St. Paul.
Over 170 daily flights, non-stop service to 19 cities and connections everywhere else. Reno Tahoe International Airport, dedicated to moving you.
Jupiter.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment. And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers.
Thank you. Welcome back. We're here with Jim Denton, Bonnie Parnell of Carson City, Debbie Smith of Sparks. Bonnie and Debbie lead the Assembly Education Committee. First off, Bonnie, let me ask you this. Debbie, please jump in. Is it a key issue this year in the legislature deals with a property tax cap? As you both know, property taxes help fund schools, so if you cap the property taxes, it seems like schools are going to be hurt. How do you rectify this situation?
You know, I think I've heard a lot of people speak about the property tax issues in general, and I was really pleased at a meeting where a number of legislators spoke. I think we're all anxious to hear from all of the key players. We need to hear from the school districts, the local governments, the property owners. So I think that until we really see the numbers, see how badly the school districts could be affected.
Okay. Ray had mentioned some about Senator Beers' proposals. Bob Beers says we have too many administrators in school districts. Yes or no? Is he right or wrong?
I think that remains to be seen, and there's probably a lot of differences from district to district. I believe in this county that if you compare numbers to numbers in other districts in other states, you know, in proportion, I don't think we're in bad shape. and it takes an administrator to run those schools, and there is so much paperwork and so much accountability that administrators now deal with, both at the district level and at the site level, that's very time consuming, and it takes someone with a lot of expertise. So I think we have to take a very careful look at that.
Last November, the Teachers Association had proposed funding schools at the national average. Poll after poll after poll that I've seen shows that people have education as their top statewide concern. That failed. What does that say to both of you?
I think one of the issues with when you're using funding at the national average, and you'll see this in newspapers, on talk shows, there's a lot of controversy about what that number is. And I think that argument played into it, and really, I think, had a lot of people concerned about what that would cost the taxpayers in the state.
I would agree, and I do believe, from going door to door and talking to a whole lot of folks during the election, that people do generally support additional funding for education. But I think what also plays into it is wanting to leave that in the hands of the legislature to decide what that funding should be and how to achieve the revenue that we need for that, rather than tying the hands.
Okay. Bob Beers has one other proposal I'd like to ask you about, is that he would like high school to start no earlier than 8 o'clock. He bases it on national and international studies that show teenage body clocks really don't get going until 8:30 in the morning.
I've got one of those in my house that doesn't exactly roll out of bed.
I did too. I raised
5:30 in the morning
two sons that would have liked that
So should we
proposal.
move back the start of high school? So kids
I
can
think
get
many high schools already in the state don't start academic classes until after 8 o'clock. Many have zero period, which starts at 7, but often that's an extracurricular leadership class. So that's another one.
Well, but the problem,
to look at.
The problem is, at least where my son goes to school in Henderson, they start school at 7. He's out by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but then they've got a new shift of kids coming in.
Right.
And so if you start school at 8, you're going to have kids going to school until 6 o'clock at night.
That's true when you're looking at large high schools.
Any way you look at it, there are not a lot of good choices.
And I think much of it is a decision that has to be looked at a local level, because there are a lot of other considerations. In our high growth areas, we have a lot of issues to solve with building issues and capital improvement projects, how you cope with schedule changes. And I know that the research shows, and certainly from having raised 3 children and just spent Christmas with my 2 younger kids who were on the absolute opposite clock of everyone else in the family, I don't disagree with that, but I think we need to see what the options are.
Busing's another major issue in the argument.
I agree. I know that in Washoe County, you're going to have to buy double your bus fleet to get all the high school kids and the elementary school kids to school at 8 o'clock, and then what's that going to do to our traffic tie-up here?
And it's like the property tax discussion. You may think that you have a simple solution to everything, but as you start talking about it, it becomes more complex, and the ripple effects are there. And so, just like property taxes, every decision that we make at the legislature, we always have to hear the information first and see how it affects all of the players before we make a decision.
And if you want to fund something, is that going to be your choice of putting additional monies into new buses just so that high schoolers don't start school until after 8? There are a lot of other things that I think would be priorities as far as spending.
Quickly, because I know we only have about a minute left, there has been a proposal that since taxes were raised last session, that the money ought to be rebated, since the economy is doing so well, that it be rebated to taxpayers. Good idea, bad idea? Very short answer, because we're going down on time.
This state has many needs, and we see that we are often at the very top of the wrong lists and the bottom of the right lists. And I think that we really need to look at that surplus and figure out how we can better serve our constituents with that money.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Sunbelt Communication.
Siegfried and Roy presents Darren Romeo.
There's magic in his voice, and there's music in his magic.
Brilliant young talent like this is very rare.
The music of the night. I'm Darren Romeo.
Unbelievable. Wow. Fantastic. Dinner and show package from $27.95. Call the Eldorado at 786-5700.
For a hole in your roof or a whole new roof, Ken Dillon, owner of Van Dyne Roofing, can get it fixed with his eyes closed.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
It's America's largest historical district, and it's fun for the entire family. Virginia City is where the West comes alive every day, from train rides to gunslingers. Your gang can explore mines and interesting museums, visit historic saloons, and do some great shopping. Virginia City is the ultimate in family entertainment, and it's very affordable. Come up and stay overnight in our hotels, motels, and RV park. Virginia City, the Wild West at its best.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back. We're here with Bonnie Parnell and Debbie Smith, former PTA presidents who now run the Assembly Education Committee. Debbie, let me ask you. Senator Reid told me just recently that he wants President Bush to fund No Child Left Behind in Nevada at a higher rate. But if you go back and look at how funding has picked up since Bush has been president, funding for No Child Left Behind programs has increased 30% in the last 3 years. So how much more money can we really expect from the feds on this?
Well, I think it has picked up in some areas, but there are still schools that need more funding. You know, the bubble schools, for example, that aren't on the watch list, but we want to keep them off the watch list. We have to make sure that we provide the resources for those schools, and also schools that have, for instance, high populations of English language learners. I still think that there are some areas that we need
Congressman
more
Gibbons has
resources.
proposed that we take part of the dollars that are now being funded through the Southern Nevada Lands Act and take that money and put even a higher percentage of it into education. Currently, we're putting 5% of the money into education. He has suggested that we up that to 35%. And he's getting, obviously, some grief from the environmental community about that. But if we did that at the price that land is selling in Southern Nevada and put that into the trust fund, we'd have almost $200 million extra dollars to spend if we did that. What do you think? Good idea? Bad idea?
I don't, you know, I'd have to learn more about it, but I think one of the issues, going back to No Child Left Behind, and it would be interesting to know if that was going to be earmarked. You know, is that money that's going to be used for a specific purpose in our schools?
Yeah, because what is happening now is that the BLM sells land at high prices in Southern Nevada, and then they take the money and they buy all of Nye County with it. I mean, Nye County is down to like 2% that is not federally owned. And so what his proposal is that currently 5% of those dollars go into an state of Nevada educational trust fund that is earmarked for a variety of things. And he has suggested raising that level to 35%. Now, when that bill was first proposed, by the way, it was 50% was what it was supposed to be, and it somehow got knocked down to 5%. And there are a number of people in Southern Nevada that think that's not a bad idea.
Oh, I don't either. You know, just look at construction. I think, and I read in the Journal article Sunday about education and just the growth, keeping up with the growth in our school districts, most particularly Clark County, Washoe, but now Lyon County.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Lyon County is going to have some tremendous issues. You know, a lot of population moving out towards Denton and more affordable areas and the families with young children.
And our older schools are really in need of improvements and capital projects. And so we really have to look at how we're going to fund that.
Okay, let me ask you this about funding new school construction. It's been proposed by some Washoe County trustees that they put impact fees on new home developers, maybe $2,000 a house. How do you think that lawmakers are going to take that? Do you think that's something that will pass?
Well, I think it's something that everyone will want to look at, because we certainly hear about it a lot out in our districts. I think you always have to look at whether you can generate enough revenue to truly make a difference, and then you have to look at the fact that it generally will be passed on to the consumer, that it probably won't be the developer that actually pays it, and so people really need to look at that big picture. But I would bet we have a serious discussion about that.
Okay. You know, when mentioning the PTA background, I remember being involved in PTA probably 10 years ago with an impact fee discussion at that point in time, which PTA supported, and of course it didn't go anywhere. So good discussion, but there's always a lot of opponents to that idea.
You know, who really gets the short shift in education a lot of times are the kids in rural Nevada. If you talk to the superintendent, for example, in Nye County, do you know where they get their new buses from? Their new buses are the old buses that Clark doesn't want anymore because they already have 100 or 200,000 miles.
You're absolutely right.
Those are their new buses.
I grew up in rural Nevada. I was a school board member in rural Nevada, and the challenges there are very unique, and their economy goes on such a bust and a boom that it's really hard for those school districts, and that's always the challenge of this legislature, is to consider the diversity in the state.
That also becomes the problem when you talk about the Bureau of Land Management buying more land, because it comes out of that tax base. And so all of a sudden, for example, they took $35,000 out of the tax base in rural Nevada, and these counties got a check for $635 in lieu of property taxes. It's not going to work.
Well, and you look at counties like Mineral and Lincoln, and maybe Lincoln's going to have a rebirth, but just tremendous challenges. And even Eureka, you know, when mining's good, their per pupil is huge, far above the state average, and then they'll go into a downfall. So a lot of serious issues in education.
I want to change the subject for just 1 minute. Debbie, your opponent in last year's election, Don Gustafson, has filed a slander suit against you, claiming that someone in your campaign said that Don engaged in domestic violence. Quickly, what is the status of this suit?
Well, the suit is still active and in the court system right now. So, you know, beyond stating that it's still there and that it's a frivolous suit, I would prefer to not comment on.
Yeah, I'm going to comment on it because I know nothing about it. But I'm going to tell you something. Having been a political consultant in the state for 30 years, I've seen lots of losers sue.
Okay, that's all we have time for. We'll be back with the pundit panel right after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
It's the next best thing to having your own wine cellar. Come to the Bonanza Casino for a first and fine dining, reasonably priced wines. When you dine at Cactus Creek Southwestern Steakhouse, you can also enjoy a fine bottle of wine at just about the same price you'd pay at the Vineyard, Silver Oak, Robert Mondavi, Rombauer, Cape Red, Jordan, and Duckhorn, just to name a few. And at the lowest prices of any restaurant or casino in Northern Nevada. And remember, all fine wines are not in wine cellars. They're in the Cactus Creek at the Bonanza Casino, where locals come to play.
If you think Wells Fargo is only checking accounts, you're not seeing the whole picture. Online brokerage, mutual funds, mortgages, and home equity accounts. So get more than free checking and start reaching your goals today. Now you get the picture. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers.
Hi, we're back with our pundit panel, Martha Gould, Fred Hillerby, and Harry York. Jim, you want to get going on this?
You know, I have a question about, this tragedy that happened over the holidays of the tsunami in Southeast Asia. And do you think the initial response of the United States of pledging $35 million, was that reasonable and adequate in your opinions?
Well, actually, I said on the air that the United States stepped up in the beginning, and I don't think they realize that above and beyond what is now $350 million.
Well, yeah, but they went from $35 million to $350 million in about 10 minutes.
Until you know what's going on and you have a feel, you at least do something, and the United States did step up to the bar, not only with money, but also with military support that brought in humanitarian aid.
What do you think, Fred?
I agree with Martha. You know, I don't think anybody knew the scope of the tragedy when it first hit. I mean, that's not something particularly for us in the United States. We had that one out of Alaska that killed 11 people in Crescent City, California. You know, so you try to put that into perspective. There's no way you think about hundreds of thousands of people dying because of this natural disaster.
I've seen estimates that go as high as to areas that they have not even been able to reach yet of almost, they're looking at estimates of 400,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It's mind-boggling. But to point a finger at the United States and say that we haven't done what we should do, I think is really egregious.
Harry?
I think the one thing it's done is it's put things that we've had in a different perspective, where we looked at our hurricanes, which were major natural disasters, and even us here looking at the snow, and we think of how awful this is and how inconvenient it is. But when you put it in perspective of what's happened there, it's nothing.
It's absolutely nothing. Yeah, I agree with you, Harry.
And I want to go back to something that Secretary Powell said when he talked about when you begin to take a long-range view of the rebuilding of the infrastructure, nobody knows how much money is going to be needed.
I think that's absolutely true.
The idea that we're going to be ending up spending considerably more, not only in cash in terms of money to help, but also with other types of help. And again, I go back to what the military is doing. They're bringing in the helicopters, they're bringing in...
Well, a lot of countries are doing that, Martha. Australia is doing that, a lot of countries are doing that.
The point is, we're doing it too.
Well, it seems to me like it's almost a PR battle here between the U.S. and the United Nations, who gets the credit for this relief effort. And if
that's wrong.
If we don't give a lot of credit, a lot of relief, terrorism runs rampant in this part of the world, and it can only grow if we don't step in and help.
I agree.
And that's why I think our initial commitment of $35 million was a mistake, because it gave them the perfect opportunity to say, this is what the United States really thinks of you. They can spend $87 billion in Iraq killing you, but they can only spend $35 million feeding you. And I thought that created a perfect scenario, and I am glad the president realized that and sent his brother and sent Secretary Bush or Secretary Powell over there, because it creates a perfect scenario for a breeding ground for groups like Al-Qaeda.
Well, and I think now you have the past presidents going as even a bigger state.
Right.
And I think that we have built on this. So, I mean, I hate to say it's a PR war. The bottom line is that we are providing humanitarian aid along with other countries.
Well, I think one of the things that needs to be noted is it'd be very easy to say, let's let the government do it. But I think the response of the people of the United States is remarkable.
I agree.
The amount of dollars.
And the corporations.
I mean, yeah.
You know, and this is interesting because a lot of this hasn't, I mean, they talk about the government, but the people of this country have been giving money and time and effort and volunteerism. That really has to be acknowledged.
No, I think that's a good point. Fred, I got a quick question for you because we're running out of time. It has to do with the next legislative session. You are a veteran of many legislative sessions. What would your advice to the governor be in this legislative session? How should he approach it? And two-part question. Second of all, what do you think of this idea that's floating around of giving, rebating the taxpayers some of the dollars that were assessed last session?
Well, I think, first of all, the governor doesn't ask me what he thinks he should do,
No,
and
I'm
so
just
I'm not
asking
going
you
to
your
tell him.
opinion.
But I have an opinion, of course. I think the first thing he needs to do is be very strong in his commitment to restoring the rainy day fund.
Absolutely.
I think that this issue of knowing that we have a surplus, and that's good, and now we're rushing to try to figure out a way to give it away, and I think that's a real mistake. It's a mistake in terms of a rebate right now because I think that's too short-sighted by those who would support that, and I think we have to be very careful when we talk about capping property taxes. You talked about it in your earlier segment. That's the one of the taxes we have that responds to inflation. And not many of our taxes do. And so if we cap it, then we don't have a way to recover when we have a downturn in the economy. And we all know that will happen sometime.
Well, and this has been an unprecedented economy. It's how rapid it's grown, and the sales tax dollars and the gaming dollars. And I think definitely we have to bank it for the next time that it drops down.
I think I would remind people about an Aesop's fable of the ant and the grasshopper.
I'm being told we got to go.
Okay. We'll hear the fable later, Martha. Thank you for joining us today.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Where do I want to go? Me? Denver. Anchorage, Alaska.
Atlanta. Vancouver.
Chicago.
We can help you get where you need to be or want to be. Reno Tahoe International Airport. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Anywhere? Minneapolis. St. Paul.
Over 170 daily flights, non-stop service to 19 cities and connections everywhere else. Reno Tahoe International Airport, dedicated to moving you.
Jupiter.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
Siegfried and Roy presents Darren Romeo.
There's magic in his voice, and there's music in his magic.
Brilliant young talent like this is very rare.
The music of the night. I'm Darren Romeo.
Unbelievable. Wow. Fantastic.
Dinner and show package from $27.95. Call the Eldorado at 786-5700.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. Tomorrow, we have Paul Dugan, the new superintendent of Washoe County Schools, and George Flint, the lobbyist for Nevada's legal brothel business. And on Thursday, it's Representative Jim Gibbons.